Hey folks, this is Brian here. I'm back again, sort of. Well, this is a Runequest video. I'm going to touch just a little bit about my Princess Apocalypse campaign because I think it has died. One of my players moved up north, which made it more difficult for him to get back down. And this summer, my son went to college, so he's gone. And with the holidays and everything else, we got together once, I think, since this summer, and I've gotten no contact from my players saying, hey, we're going to play again. So I think that's kind of died off. And I really don't, it's not that I don't mind, but I'm trying to focus on Runequest, RQG, because it's a game I love. I play D&D because that's what people are playing, but I love Runequest. And thankfully, Chaosium ran Runequest again this year at PAX Unplugged, so I was able to go. And GM for them. Unfortunately, well, not really. Most of the games were Call of Cthulhu. We only had one session of RuneQuest all weekend, and it was Darkness and Runegate that we ran. So it was something I'd run before, so I was familiar with it. So I didn't worry too much. And I spent not a lot. I spent some time spooling myself up on the Call of Cthulhu and on the games that I actually ran. Which, all in all, went okay. The last game we had was actually Pulp Cthulhu, Down Darker Trails scenario. So it was Cowboys in the West kind of thing. And the Pulp Cthulhu has its own rules, which are different than the 7th edition stuff, which I just have the starter piece, the quick start for. And so it got a little iffy there a few times. But all in all, it was still run successfully, even though I totally gaffed one of the encounter pieces. So they ended up bypassing. Well, they didn't end up bypassing. Well, they did. They ended up bypassing, but not because of my gaff. My gaff gave them too much information, which allowed them to fast forward towards the final encounter. But enough of that. RQG, Runequest, Darkness at Runequest, Darkness at Runegate, excuse me, from PAX Unplugged, Philadelphia. Okay, my table, there are 7 pre-generated characters that Chaosium is using for these convention games that are all in the actual book itself. That's one more than the 6 in the quick start. That's a guy named Nathan. He's a hunter, has a shadow cat, that kind of thing. So 6 players, 7 pre-gens. The Arnalda Priestess, I forgot her name. I should know her name. I've got a crush on her. But she was left out of the game because Nathan was in. So everybody had some kind of introduction to RuneQuest before. One guy had the rules but never played and wanted to play to see experiences so he could, like, run his own game kind of thing. A couple other players had played like RuneQuest 2 or 3, the Avalon Hill version. So they're familiar with the mechanics. One other guy was like brand new, but he is a role player. He wanted to role play his character, and he actually did a lot for that game, and brought a lot of life to it. I felt it was great, him really getting into his role, and he played Harmast, the chieftain, clan chief's son. So they're traveling from Appalane to Runegate. If you've seen some other scenarios, this, or there's other videos, how the scenario was kind of played out. As I prepped up for this one and re-prepped and just reviewed, I did find a couple of places where I had poor perception on what was happening. So hopefully I was able to clarify a few things for myself and for my players. But the standard startup stuff happens. They get there, they get stopped. They have to wait around for Severos to come and bring, allow them to come in. This party did make their spot hidden rolls, so they were able to see the hoof prints of the brew going into the East Gate. There weren't any prints going out, and so they were kind of figuring that maybe the brew were still in town, and that would obviously make sense on all the disease and stuff, because brews carry diseases with them, right? Dirty, nasty little animal people. But later on, they decided to try and follow these brew tracks, and the way the scenario is designed, they go out the west gate to go up to the chaos place. So I just had them, heading north, getting into the woods. They ended up losing the trail at that point, so it was no big deal. Back to the start. They get in, several shows up, some stuff going on. A couple people make the rolls on, this guy does not like these folks, does not like the PCs. They never dig into that too deep, so they don't find out why or anything. But several, so you gotta come quick, there's been a murder, blah, blah, blah. So they go in, he takes them into the temple, and they see all this stuff. They make a couple of rolls, a couple more cult lore rolls, so they're able to distinguish the fact that all this mud and gore that's used to splatter over all the runes around the temple are actually chaos runes and darkness runes and something else. So they got to feel that something's going on here. There's a whole claw marks in the mud and gore starting to go towards the doorway, but then you disappear, and there's just footprints everywhere. So there's this concern that maybe there's like a flying beast thing. That's what came in and killed her. Maybe even a dragon, or a dream dragon, a wormling kind of thing, baby little one. But the claw marks aren't really dragon. They're dragon-ish, but not dragon-like. So there's some of that thinking going on. They go over and they meet Veneros, the Lord of Runegate. Get a little bit of talking with him, not too much. Vishy's there, and he can see the disease spirits on him, and so they know that this kind of stuff is going on all over in town. He tells them about the inn, and they take off. At this point, they go right to the inn, and en route to the inn, wandering encounter kind of stuff, they run into a couple of two of the followers. People have been healed by the healer, so they don't exhibit. The disease spirits are no longer reducing their stats. And from that encounter to the PCs, end up picking up a couple of diseases, so they were getting really confused on what's going on. But they make some communication on, hey, we're interested in what's going on. This healer person, they talk a little bit about that, and it says, well, we'll be coming by the inn later on. We can talk more then. So they take off. The party goes to the inn, and this is where they went and checked the blueprints and went to try to follow them. They came back. So they're at the inn. They get drinks, get something to eat. So they're spending money. So they end up getting a bonus and trying to get information out of the innkeep. But they are just not rolling well. And he's not really interested in talking to them. At that point, they start talking about maybe we should just bribe this guy. And so Harmas kind of, puts a couple lunars across the counter, and that's why he allowed some new rolls because of that. And at that point, he started making rolls. So he able to get some information about this whole coincidence thing. Healer shows up, or people start getting sick. Healer shows up, is able to heal them. It's really, it's a suspect, right? And they get some more information out of him. After that, the party decides to split. Harmas and one of the other PCs stays in the inn because they're waiting for the followers to show up. Vishy Dunn actually stayed out in the yard on his llama. He's just kind of antisocial. And the rest of the party went back to see Veneros, the Lord of Runegate, to see if they can't get some kind of a symbol of authority as they go to investigate trying to solve this murder, which was a pretty decent idea. So he gave them little tokens, got the dueling horses on it, kind of thing, a little round wooden medallion deal. Yes, we represent the Lord of Runegate. Answer our questions. Good choice, good choice. So they come back. By the time they come back, the followers have already shown up. So Harmast and his buddy are the only ones in the inn when the followers show up. The followers order lots of drinks and some food, and so Harmast and his buddy start, talk. Well, Harmast starts talking with him, but he just kind of stood back and watched. And Harmast actually ends up contracting 2 diseases. Thankfully for the party, thankfully for the party, or luckily. All the diseases they contracted were either on a daily or weekly basis. Very, very weak diseases. They didn't get anything severe. But he got 2 different diseases, brain fever and I think the creeping chills. So his constitution went down by 1 and his intelligence went down by 1. So he's not feeling too good. And so they start talking about this whole healer thing. Can she heal me? And that goes, well, yeah, she can. She healed us, and that kind of stuff. And they start talking, and they suggest, if you want, you can come with us. And so Harmast agrees to that, and they give him the stipulations on how the healer is really not establishment, not wealth either, but power and stage and that kind of stuff is just not her deal. She's very bare bones, basic, minimalist kind of person, right? So put away the worldly things. That's it, worldly, not unworldly, non-worldly. So put all that stuff away. So no armor, no weapons, no expensive clothing, no jewelry, all that kind of stuff, right? And so he goes, oh, that's what she means. Okay, so he goes to his room, dumps off all of his stuff. On his way back out, that's when the rest of the party gets to the inn. And so they have this little powwow outside in the yard about what's going on. They came to this plan that Harmast is going to go with the followers as a new follower or new initiate. And then the rest of the party will, track and follow and trace. And they've got Nathan, who's that hunter tracker guy, right? So he's sneaky up front, track and following, right? And then the rest of the party is much further back because they're, in armor and making noise and all that kind of stuff. So we essentially have 3 groups. You've got Harmast with the followers, you've got Nathan, and you got the rest of the party. And they're kind of training through as they go places. So Harmast goes into the inn, hooks up with the followers, and after time goes by, okay, it's time, we need to go. They go to the healer's house. Now, in my earlier videos, talking about how it says she has a house in Newtown. I'm assuming at this point it's actually the new part of town because the town was destroyed, but the entire town was destroyed when the Crimson Bat came, landed right on, destroyed everything except for Runegate, which is lucky, right? It survived the attack. So the whole place should be new, right? I don't know. So I just, here in the map, this is the new part of town. She's got a house in there. So the followers go to her house. Nathan's following around, makes his self rolls and his tracking rolls. And the tracking rolls, I had him roll to leave a trail. So the rest of the party has no problem following where they're going. Nathan gets a house, has everybody stay back. Harmast is already inside. The healer does her little, intro thing where she touches somebody on the cheek, gives them a blessing kind of deal, and invites them in. Comes up to Harmast, and Harmast allows her to do that, so she does her deal. He misses his perception roll on her being, who is this person? Why are they here? And then she makes a stipulation of he needs to sacrifice 10 magic points to the standard 2. She didn't say standard 2, but everybody knows it's 2 magic points. She's asking, 5 times as many magic points. And she does that so that it actually weakens the party. So if it comes down to magic fighting going on, they're going to be really much weaker than they normally would be. But he's willing to do it. Part first cover, I think, is the way I interpreted how he was doing things. Rather than, no problem. Here's 10 magic balls. Now this got to a kind of confusing spot because should he make the sacrifice of magic points here or at the actual ceremony itself? And if he makes the sacrifice of magic points here, should he be healed here or at the ceremony itself? That's something I didn't really think about until afterwards, but I have sacrifice here, and the healing actually occurred at the ceremony. So he does a sacrifice. They sit around for a bit, talking. Okay, it's time. Let's go. So they sneak out. They go out the west gate. Again, why guards will allow anybody out of town when they've got all this stuff going on? Whatever. And then Nathan Nathan is following along, making his stealth and his tracking rolls, and the party's following after. So at one point where Nathan missed his tracking roll, but the party, somebody in the party is able to actually make theirs and was able to fall back up on where the trail is. Okay, so they get out of town. They truck across country for a bit, go up into the woods, and at that point they hit the trail. Well, it's actually a wagon trail because the wagon goes through there, right? The wagon trail. And at that point, they have to make any rolls anymore except for stealth and stuff. So Harmas gets to the chaos point, has to make that Constitution saving throw because of the stench and everything else, and he misses it, so he's at minus 20% for the next 2 minutes. That's 20 melee rounds. Anyway, and you know the followers set up a semicircle around the altar. She's there at the altar. The brew are back on the outside of the way I set up. The brew are in the back by the woods, the outside edge of the chaos spot, chaos grounds, the chaos grounds. So and there's a bonfire in the middle, right? So they're back far enough they're not really necessarily visible. Well, they're visible, but it's not like you can see them very well. At least that was my plan. You know. Now Harmas didn't try to do a spot roll or a search or a scan or anything to actually take a look at them, but that's okay. He's kind of watching the ceremony and stuff. He was also up next to the healer as they were traveling along. As it got close to the chaos grounds and had to make that Constitution roll, he starts asking questions about why is Zola Umbar? There are when he was at the house, he asked a few questions trying to get more details about who the healer worships, this kindly one, right? And she makes a few comments about the healing darkness and that kind of stuff, and he made some cult lore rolls, and that associates with Zola Umbar, who's a troll darkness goddess of peace, I think it is. And she did, in fact, fight against chaos. And so he's starting to ask these questions about why would you be worshiping Zola Umbar in a chaos grounds kind of place, kind of thing. Not his words, mine, right? But she came with this spiel about how, we become stronger by working in areas that oppress us. And he failed his perception rolls to try and catch up on this stuff because he's got a bonus, actually, on seeing that she's really freaked out that he gave her 10 magic points. That kind of surprised her. And so there's this tension that's there. Should be fairly easy to see, but he kept missing his rolls. But so he buys off on that. They line up. She's doing her ceremony. She comes out with this goblet of foul liquid, right? And he drinks it down. At that point, I give him, okay, you're actually feeling better. This seems to be doing some kind of healing on you. Now, you don't get your points back yet, but you don't think you're going to be losing anymore. And that's how it all works. It's kind of a masking kind of thing. So it suppresses the disease spirit. Okay, so what's going on? The party comes sneaking up, and they get the whole whiff of the chaos grounds as well. And they're trying to discuss amongst themselves quietly about what to do when, lo and behold, 2d6 plus X villagers come up the trail because they've come to get healed too. And I think there's like 11 of them. And so they, sneak back into the woods off the trail and try and hide. Now these characters aren't trying to look for anybody. There's a chance of a critical success kind of thing on, oh, wow, he is there, like a passive perception deal or something. But didn't make it. They go in, they circle, and make a half circle around the altar with the other followers. And at this point, one of the brew made his spot hidden roll. So he sees there's something over there. So he goes to investigate. He's coming across the chaos grounds towards them. Once he gets so close, the players say, okay, that's it. Open fire. So they move, start attacking. One of the followers goes down, arrow to the leg. The healer gets shot at, doesn't get hit. So she ducks down behind the altar and starts casting her buffing spells. All the brews start to activate and start running towards the action. The players start to move out. And at this point, The player playing Vichy asks me a question about charge attacks with his llama. Okay, we've been sneaking through the woods up near an open space. If you're on a 10-foot tall llama, they don't need to make rolls. They can see him. You know, if you're going to have this animal, you need to keep him back a ways. That obviously didn't go so well with the player. Something I should have clarified earlier. Yeah, if you've got animals, they need to stay. If you have mounts, they need to stay back. I thought they had all been at the end still. That's what I had thought. I should have clarified. So, okay, 2 rounds of running back, get on the mount. 3rd round, you'll be back, kind of thing, right? And in talking with one of the other GMs, you know, they're talking about the whole, you know, bison, cavalry bison and charging lances and stuff. It convinced me to think, go, well, yeah, that would that be more fun? I suppose it would be, but if you're trying to sneak up on something, you're not going to do it with a bison or a 10-foot tall llama. So, my call, maybe not maximum fun, but I try to play a believable game. We'll call it that. So he heads back because he doesn't really have a lot. He's got spirit magic though, so I'm not sure, because he's a shaman. He can do all kinds of spirit kind of stuff, but either they didn't read up in the spells, and I didn't have time to dig into his particular character and say, hey, what about this? What about that? What about the other? So maybe I should have brushed up on all that as well beforehand myself. Say, hey, well, he can do this, he can do that, he can do the other, because the only kind of fighting he can do is that, you know, Lance from the Llama thing, because he came from PAX. But anyway, he runs off. We got the Natham and one other fighter both fighting. Harmas is in the middle of everything, and we've got a couple other fighters in another section of the woods moving up. The brew come down. One brew gets put down. Harmas goes over to him, takes his club, and then goes to position himself over by the healer, you know, like he's trying to protect her. Good to go. Great idea. So he's moving around doing that. The rest of the brew are coming in. A couple of them are able to engage. The Shadow Cat goes and attacks one of those 2 brew. In fact, the cat attacks. He gets like 3 attacks a round. And for 2 rounds, he's raking on this guy. But the guy's, you know, parrying the human he's fighting, ignoring the cat, right? But the cat keeps tearing him up. So on the 3rd round, he just, okay, fine. Attacks. He rolls head locations. End up killing the cat with 1 spear thrust. But while this fighting is going on, there's 2 of the brew that are pretty tough, and the rest of them are just cannon fodder. So one of the tough brew comes up, and she's dual wielding rapier and short sword, and so she's slashing up on female brew. I've questioned that, but she's slashing up on Solara, I think it was, and Solara gets hit in her right arm for max points to put it to 0. Well, enough points to put it to 0. So she spends the next round doing rune magic healing to put it back up. Then gets in the other arm, same amount of damage, so it goes to 0. She does the next maybe round rune magic healing, so she has 2 rune magic just to heal herself up. This 3rd round, so Vichy actually gets to the area at this round, but we ran out of time. We had pretty much stopped there. There was one other ogre that was in with the followers. Actually, he was already there, but he came up with the followers. When the attacks came, he pulled a short bow, went over by the healer, and was, you know, taking some sniping shots at folks from there. All in all, I think well, there was that issue with the whole mounts thing and clarifying, you know, that sort of thing, especially when people are sneaking and stuff. I guess since he was back with the rest of the party, he wasn't thinking he was sneaky, but there was this whole part where we got to the chaos grounds and had to dodge in the woods and we're hiding and that kind of thing, that, you know, he can't hide a 10-foot tall llama, or for that matter, a 3,000-pound bison. You know, that stuff just doesn't hide. The bison never brought up the bison, thankfully. So that was, you know, a down point for the game. But all in all, Harmas was a great role player. He ended up winning we had certificates we could give out for like 10% off when you buy stuff from the Chaosium store online. And, you know, who gets to win this? Who's the best player? And everybody pointed to him, so we give it to him. And we got a feel for combat. The combat was only like 3 we did full 3 melee rounds plus a couple of other rounds, round of surprise, that kind of thing, and I think we started a 4th round, but we didn't get to go much because of the timing situation. So I got a feel for how the combat goes. It is really, really slow when I've got NPCs that are moving. You know, every strike rank they're moving a hex closer to things. So they're moving, you know, strike rank 1, strike rank 2, strike rank 3 until we get to 5. So I know on my game I'm going to be pushing for fancy trip style initiative, where you roll initiative for either side, and then the side that wins initiative gets to decide who's going to move first, and then they move, and then the other side moves, and that way you've got all calculated out, and movement's all done. So that's what I'm going to do in my home game. I've been trying to actually get an online game running because I can't seem to find any folks local who want to play. At least play RuneQuest. Apparently down in Fredericksburg, they've got a lot of 5th edition and Pathfinder stuff still going on. And a lot of board game stuff too. There are a couple game stores down there, so there's lots of things going on. I may have to hit down there again after the turn of the year and see if there's any interest in doing a live table game at one of the stores. Because I got Buddy Bruce on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast, and I tagged a couple of online forums of folks who said they were looking for an online game. One fella wasn't able to play at all. The other guy said, sure, yeah, but I haven't heard from him since then. I've been pushing out, you know, every couple of weeks, and it's been like 3 or 4 or 5 weeks now, 6 maybe, on, hey, are we going to play this Saturday kind of thing? So I may have to put a kibosh on that and just try and find a folks who are willing to do a table game at a game store. But anyway, that was my darkness at Runegate at PAX Unplugged. Happy gaming.